see a different thumbnail from day to day. So, would you see one in your home screen and then later on a different one in your browse and suggest? No. So it appears very much, and I think there's a reason for this, that each account always gets the same thumbnail. So, like, if Nathan goes on his account, he might always see thumbnail A. And if I went on my personal account, I might always see thumbnail B for the same video. Because if they're showing you different thumbnails each time, then that would be a problem. Because then you might think you hadn't seen a video yet when you actually have. Of course, people can change their thumbnails anyways. If he goes on his account, he might always see thumbnail A. And if I went... So that's always a risk anyways if you're changing your thumbnail halfway through a video. But that's not how it works at all.
Yeah. Okay. So for those of you who are just joining now, we are talking about YouTube's A/B thumbnail tester, as you probably saw on the title of this live. This is something that we have been waiting to talk about for a very, very long time. We've had the thumbnail A/B tester in beta now for, what was it, about 6-ish months? And so we've been doing tons of different tests. We've been doing some secretive tests that we've talked about it a little bit publicly, but not too much. And so today we're just going to be talking about some of the questions that you guys have asked, or some misconceptions that we've seen about the tool. And we're really excited. This has been something, like I said, we've seen dating back like 12 years, people talking about YouTube's A/B thumbnail tester. And so the fact that it's finally here is super, super exciting. But also a little, we're not like, I don't even know how to explain how we're feeling at this point. Definitely torn. It's exciting that it's out, but there's definitely some concerns that we have with it.
Yeah. So you want to hear my biggest concern?
Yeah.
Honestly, my biggest concern is, people want to use it anyways. Power to you. My biggest concern at this point is that most people will not really understand, or they won't hear about this. My concern is that the awareness around it, that people won't even know, right? Like, if we share what's going on and then you still want to use it, great. We should be continuing to test it because it could be evolving. But I'm afraid people aren't going to get it. So.
Yeah, I agree. So we've talked about some of the concerns. I think before we jump into all of that, let's talk about some of the misconceptions, some of the confusion that we saw. So Julie put out a video last week about the tester that it got released, and in some of the comments we saw some things that people brought up, some of the things that you guys brought up that we wanted to talk about. So one of the maybe the first things, and maybe Julie you can pull up a couple more, but one of the first things that someone said was, I wish YouTube would allow infinite thumbnails in a tester. There's definitely some problems with that. I mean, what are your thoughts on that initially?
Well, one of the biggest problems is that the more thumbnails you upload, even if they let you upload 10, then your sample size essentially becomes smaller. Right? Because, let's say you have 20 people that got impressions on that video, and there's 10 thumbnails out there, then each person or each thumbnail only got 2 eyes on it. So suddenly your sample size is going way down, and we're already a bit concerned about the sample size. So, and it's just a matter of your time, is it worth it to make 3? Maybe. I think it's really good practice to make 3 thumbnails, depending on, how many hours you put into your video itself and how long it takes you to make a thumbnail. It might make sense to make 3 thumbnails.
Yeah.
More than 3? I don't think so, especially not more than 10. Infinite, I don't know. I don't know if they're thinking of using AI. I'm not sure what that person meant, because who would be able to?
Yeah, I mean, if someone had like a Mr. Beast sized channel where you're getting 100 million views every single video, maybe 10 or 20 thumbnails would make sense. Especially if, he has the type of team that could facilitate 10 or 20 or 30 different types of thumbnails or versions. But for the majority of us, where if we can get 3 thumbnails ready to go, kind of for our final pick, that's a good day for us on our videos. And so I can imagine that it's the same for most of you. And like you said, I think the sample size is the biggest issue. If we're looking at, maybe 50,000 impressions or 100,000 impressions, which really will turn into just a few thousand views, if you have 30 thumbnails being tested, that 10,000 views, that doesn't split 30 ways very well. All of a sudden you only have a few hundred views to test each thumbnail with, and your data is just not very good. I don't know if you guys know this, but we try and be very data focused here.
Yeah.
Sometimes it will seem overly analytical of us to break things down the way that we do, but just know that it's in your best interest to be very analytical. And I think sometimes we try to be extra analytical so that you don't have to. because it's not always fun to do all these tests and dig through all the data. Like, it's exciting. It's something we kind of get nerdy about. We like it. But it's not always the most, I don't know, exciting or interesting thing to do. Sometimes we would just rather be out there creating interesting, fun videos.
Yeah.
But I do think that the data is super important, because when we look at a comment like that that says, oh, I want infinite thumbnails, we kind of go into like, well, put on our glasses, our like professor hat, like, oh, well, that wouldn't work, because the reason we do that is so that we can most accurately share what we think would actually work on YouTube.
Yeah, and that kind of feeds the strategy. Like,
Yes.
you have a reason behind the strategy. And there's so much content on YouTube already about growing on YouTube and YouTube strategy, and we do make more of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I really like to focus on the data because it's unique, like we found today or in the last 6 months, and hopefully help you guys out even more. So, let's see. Someone says, question: do you think PowerPoint is good enough to make YouTube thumbnails? That's funny. My mom used to do everything on PowerPoint, like to an extreme. Like, that's not really what PowerPoint is for. For thumbnails, I think there's better ways that are still probably easier than you'd think. Like, if you tried Canva, I think that would give you a lot more options that are more suited to thumbnails, and you might be surprised how easy it is. If PowerPoint is really your go-to, what you're familiar with, and you want to not focus too much on learning something new right now, it's probably fine. See what you can come up with. I'm not sure what resolution. I imagine you can export in a decent resolution. So, yeah, go for it. If you're focusing on being consistent in your videos, someday I'm sure it's a good idea to learn another platform. But
yeah, I think PowerPoint could work. I feel like there you're just relying more heavily on your design capabilities.
Yeah,
because it's going to be less feature rich. Or something like Canva, which is, you get a great free version of Canva, or if you're paying for something like Photoshop, you still have to be good at design, but then you also have the tool that can support your design skills. And so I would honestly go with Canva or something like that, but if you don't have access to that, then definitely creating something is better than nothing. Okay, I just want to say good morning to Kevin. Good morning from Florida. Dog's Life. So, okay, this is one that I think is important. We should talk about this. So, Dog's Life says, dog does not have the tester yet. What is going on? Why is YouTube rolling this out the way that they are? It was funny. We were having, let's see, it was last Monday, I think. We were having a meeting, and Cody, our video editor, was like, the thumbnail tester is showing up on some of my other channels now. And we just started like going across all of our channels, and we're like, okay, yes, this one has it, this one has it. Okay, for some reason, this big channel we have doesn't have it. It like wasn't consistent at all.
Yeah.
What is up?
So some background on how they've been rolling this out. At Vid Summit last year, so that was September, October, the first week of October, I think, of 2023, they were saying that they're just slowly rolling it out to like a few thousand people at a time. I think they started with like maybe 10,000, then went to 50,000 more. And it definitely seemed like they were starting with bigger channels back when they did it.
Yeah.
Then we hadn't heard from anyone with a very small channel that didn't have it. Even the smallest ones were usually like YouTube strategy people. I think they wanted us to beta test it more. But it started out with like Mr. Beast and those kinds of people. And then we would talk to people with bigger channels who also had it, but nobody with a small channel had it. And then that went on for like 6 months where they're just...
Much longer than we expected.
Yes.
And much longer than YouTube expected, I think.
Yeah, based on some of the timelines they were giving.
Yeah.
Longer than they expected to.
Yeah.
And so they kept giving it to big channels, and it almost seemed stunted. Like, we stopped seeing new channels get it. Until, like you said, a couple days ago, Cody's like, oh, what's going on? And now, we haven't for sure found a pattern. I want to be upfront about that. But it does appear that they're giving it to extremely small channels and bigger channels. And nothing in between.
Yeah. It's a little bit weird. It's a little bit weird. Like, we'll see channels, like, we create a lot of different channels for different testing and that sort of thing. So we'll create a brand new channel with, maybe we'll put up one little video on it, or no videos. And that channel will have now the thumbnail tester. But then a channel with 1,000 subscribers or 5 or 10,000 subscribers for some reason won't have it yet.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't make any sense because, well, I actually do have a theory about that. Maybe a little bit of a conspiracy theory, but the small channels with 1 or no videos, like, it doesn't make sense for those channels to have it to me because there's no content to test. It's not doing that creator any good. But a channel with 5 or 10,000 subscribers, it would be way more helpful for them to have it than it would for a channel with nothing. I do wonder if YouTube started rolling it out to brand new channels, like recently created channels, just because maybe something about adding it to those channels made it easier, or maybe that would help as they ramp up the usage. I mean, there's going to be it's going to be using a lot of, I don't even know, like testing capacity, like storage space or whatever. Like people are going to be uploading way more files, like 2 or 3 times more thumbnail files than usual to the platform. So maybe by starting it off on smaller channels, it'll help just ramp up that rather than just exploding and everybody putting up way more file or having way more usage than normal. So
Yeah.
I don't know, a little bit of a weird one, but I think everyone will get it. I think they said over the next few weeks that people are expected to get it. So if you don't have it yet, don't worry. And honestly, after some of the things that we found in our testing, really don't worry. But we're going to get to that.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to touch on this by Samuel Sotiega. I started using A/B testing 2 days ago, but despite 33,000 impressions, nice, it is telling me there are 12 days to go. That long? Does that mean YouTube will give you more impressions than usual, so they run their A/B? I don't think you're going to get more impressions from what we've seen. We don't get any extra impressions just because we've run an A/B test. It does say that the test will run for 14 days. That doesn't mean it necessarily will. If you get enough impressions and they think they have enough data to end it sooner, they will do that. But if they're not getting a lot of data, it'll go the full 14 days. From what I found, if it has to go the full 14 days, like you're probably not going to get a result. And you might even get a result on day 12 or 13 or maybe 14. But really, they're not even just going to give you it as a result usually after 14 days. Like they want you to have those impressions. So it probably won't take all 14 days unless you, I mean, with that many impressions, I don't think it will. I think they'll give you a result sooner than that.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, you're going to have it run the full 14 days and it's still going to give you nothing. In fact, it won't even give you percentages if you don't have, I think it's around 5,000 impressions.
Yeah.
You won't even see, like, forget about the preferred, inconclusive, winner thing. Aside from the labels, you won't even see percentages. You will have no idea which one's got what amount of watch time percentage. So, sure.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a theory on that. Well, and I just really don't know. And maybe it has to do with just starting it, just barely getting started with using it. Maybe they are going to want it to run just a little bit longer just to get an idea of what your videos are typically doing or when they're getting the most impressions. But I think you're right. If you have over that kind of baseline of 5,000 impressions, but then it kind of peters off. It doesn't really get more impressions after that. I think you will end up getting the result, like Julia said. But even if you don't end up getting the conclusive result from YouTube, if you're starting to see the watch time split, you can probably draw some amount of conclusion yourself. Because after all, YouTube did say at the end of the day, it is up to you as the creator to make the decision on what thumbnail is the winner.
Yes, it is.
So anyway, really good question. I think they're still trying to figure stuff out. Based on some of the testing that we've done, it seems like they've just really wanted to get it out. I mean, they've been waiting for 12 years. I can imagine that they really, really wanted to get it out. But I still think there's going to be some tweaking going on behind the scenes, trying to get things working exactly how they want it. So
yeah. Okay, a couple more things real quick, and then we're going to, like, 30 seconds, we're going to get to what we found, okay? So, some people are saying that they just noticed the A/B tester. Make sure you're on desktop.
Yes.
Because if you're not on desktop, you're not gonna see it. It's not on the phone app yet. You're gonna think you don't even have it. And people aren't really getting notifications. Like sometimes YouTube will give notifications for new features. I have not seen that anywhere.
I've never done that. Yeah, I've never got that.
Where you just have to go check for it by going to a video, like you're gonna edit it or change the thumbnail. Scroll down the thumbnail, click the 3 dots, and test and compare. Maybe an option or may not, depending if you have it. Make sure you have advanced features turned on. It's not too hard to do. There's a couple little requirements. Most people can do it. Just make sure you do have it turned on. Even if it is turned on, doesn't necessarily mean you have the thumbnail, but you will not have it unless you have advanced features on. They've been very clear about that.
Someone here says, my issue with it is that the thumbnail needs to be paired with a matching title. I agree. When we started, especially early on when we started using the thumbnail tester, I was like, why can we not test different titles? Because I might have 2 or 3 different, thumbnail ideas, but if they're not close enough that the title also works, I do think that there are ways that you can make 3 different thumbnails work with one title. I definitely think you can do that. You have to think about it a little bit more. Maybe you have to spend a little more time crafting a really good title. It can be done. However, I want title testing. Yeah. I think that would be awesome. So YouTube, it took 12 years to do thumbnail testing. Maybe we can get like 6 years for the title tester. Half the time would be great. But yeah, I agree. I think that it would be really nice to be able to title test. I don't know how much of a priority that is for YouTube. there has been a couple times where like Renee Ritchie, the liaison on his Instagram, will say something like, what are the next features you like YouTube to work on? Every time I put title tester. So
yeah, that would be great.
Put the bug in their ear enough, and then maybe we'll get it.
Yeah. Might be a while.
Yeah, it'll probably be a while.
And another thing I would really like to see, really like to see, is where these views are coming from. So are they coming from the homepage? Are they coming from search? We need more information, click-through rate, more information on these thumbnail testers.
Okay, really quick before. Sorry, I know we're
there.
gonna get to it. There was one comment that someone said. They say, I think the best way to use this is for videos meant for browse. In YouTube search, I'm looking more for the title to decide if I'll click on it. I would agree with that to some extent, but I even think for channels who are search focused, assuming that the thumbnail tester works really well, then I think that even once you put in your search into YouTube, yes, you're probably going to look at the title for some amount of description, but I think a lot of people who have search focused channels, they use their thumbnails to indicate what type of content will be in the video. So I think that you can definitely still A/B test that. It's going to maybe be in a little bit of a different way than someone who's looking for browse and suggest traffic. But that also being said, as a search channel, you can also get browse and suggest traffic. And so I wouldn't necessarily throw this out the window for that reason. I would still say that there's some value potentially.
Yeah.
For search focused channels.
Yeah. Good point.
All right.
Good point.
Are we ready to show some
Secret.
receipts, some screenshots?
Yes. Okay. So here's what we did. First, we ran some regular thumbnail tests to see what was working. Whoa, this is really interesting. This thing seems to be doing better, or this seems to be doing better. And we ran these, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 tests, getting interesting results. And then we thought, what if we do a control test? Just to make sure, just to see kind of what the margin of error is, make sure this is working well. So what we did was we started uploading the exact same thumbnail 3 times. And the spread was huge. So let's pull up some screenshots if you have them ready.
Okay, we're going to try and break this down in as simple terms as possible because it does get a little bit technical. So stick with us. It might seem like, okay, why are we diving in this deep? It's because it does matter. And hopefully as we show you guys the screenshots, it will make sense. But again, I talked a little bit earlier about how we go a little bit deep into the analytics, into the data. We get a little nerdy with it. This is why, because we ended up finding something that really made us question the integrity of the entire tester. Yeah. And so stick with us.
And ask questions. If you're confused, please ask questions. We want to make sure it's clear.
Okay, I'm going to show, we want to pull up a control test first. Is that right?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, you guys should be able to see this window, I believe. Give it just a second.
The open door monitor says, wait, did you try to break it? Yes, we did.
Not only did we try, but I think we probably did.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys can now see what I'm seeing on my screen. Okay, Julia, talk us through this.
Okay, so spot the difference.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
There is no difference. These 3 thumbnails are exactly the same. And so the results are saying thumbnail 1, 31.3%. This is the watch time share. Thumbnail 2, 28.7. Thumbnail 3, 40%. And it's saying, winner, thumbnail 3 is now visible to all viewers. And so clearly, that one is not any better than the other 2. But it's showing this really wide spread. So now imagine that you, or maybe we decide, okay, well, let's run this again, and we'll have 3 different thumbnails. Maybe we'll keep thumbnail 3 the same, but we'll switch out the other 2. And maybe we would get 35, 38, that's not adding up to 100, you know what I mean? It's more similar results, maybe more like 33, 32, 34. Well, can we trust that? I don't think so. Or even if we saw something similar to 28 and 40, since the control test showed this huge spread, we can't trust that when the thumbnails are different. Is that making sense? It's like if you had a sugar pill, a placebo pill with some drug that they're testing, and the people with the fake medicine are showing bigger improvement than the people with the real medicine. The medicine maybe doesn't work.
Right.
So that's what's going on here.
Yeah, so, okay, when we ran this test, what we're calling the control test, right, what we were hoping to see, or what we should have seen, was a near perfect split, right? We should have seen like 33%, 33%, 33%, because the thumbnails were exactly the same. So we should have seen a nearly identical split.
Right.
That's what we were hoping to see with this control test. But as you guys saw in that screenshot, one got like 40%, one got 28%, and one got somewhere in the 20s. Like, that's a huge difference from 33, 33, 33, which is what we hope to see, to a 40%, a 28%, and a whatever, 30%. That split, what we're calling that variance, is way too big for a control test. So now should we look at a screenshot of a test that was not a control test?
So we're just trying to figure out at what point is it statistically significant?
Right.
Because YouTube is telling us that if you get the winner label, it is statistically significant. They've said that on their help page. Or if it's preferred, they're less sure. If it's inconclusive, they think it's not statistically significant. But clearly, it's not enough to be statistically significant. If we're uploading 3 of the exact same thumbnail, we've done it a lot of times.
Yes.
Getting this result. And it would be different if it was maybe a control test was maybe 33.2, 33.4, 33.8. Sure, I don't care. But it shouldn't be 28% and 40% between the highest and lowest. That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one where we did actually different thumbnails. The lowest is 29%, the highest is 38%. So notice that is less than the control test we just showed you. And yes, we're kind of cherry picking to make a point, but we actually did compile all of this data to see, like, across the board, is there a way to kind of measure the margin of error? And it was so bad we can't even do that. So with this one, it's less. The spread between the highest and lowest is less. On the other one, I think it was 28% on the lowest and 40 on the highest. So you're thinking like 40% is definitely the better thumbnail. They weren't all the same. This one, we got 29% on the lowest and 38% on the highest. But if with the control test, it was a wider spread, can you trust this? I don't think so. I don't think thumbnail 1 is necessarily worse than thumbnail 2. Now, you can look at it and decide what you like best, but you can do that anyways without running a thumbnail tester, right? Like, the results we're getting are not helpful. Is this making sense to everybody? Give us some feedback here.
Yeah. So I think you did mention this point here, but some of you listening might be going, okay, well, this was 1 or 2 or 3 tests. No, we did like 6 to 8 months worth of tests on our videos. Not only that, we've also talked to other creators who have also been running some of these tests, and they did some of the same things where we asked them to run a control test, and then we said, let us know what the split was, because again, if you run a control test, an ABC control test, it should be 33, 33, 33. We had a channel with, I think, somewhere around 2 million subscribers, and then you have a video with, I think, 50 to 100,000 views. They ran the same test, and their result was wild. It was like the same thing as what we're seeing here. And so I think someone commented here, it sounds like they're testing with too few impressions.
So I was thinking too.
That's what we were hoping to, that's what we were thinking. Maybe on our videos, it's just too few impressions. Okay, we get that. The channel's not getting a ton of views right now. It's still enough for the test to run, but maybe just not enough for it to be statistically significant or anything like that. So that's why we actually reached out to larger creators, these bigger creators with bigger views. We're actually working with additional creators right now that the thumbnail tester has been released publicly. We're working with more creators, large creators, to see if things have changed at all. So even though we hoped that it would be an impression issue, so far it's not an impression issue. We're still seeing a larger spread between the lowest number and the biggest number on the control thumbnails than 3 totally separate thumbnails. Again, keep asking questions. If you guys have any questions, please give us your questions. Let's take a look at a couple more screenshots here.
Another thing I want to mention. So yes, more impressions would help. You could say, well, does it work for Mr. Beast? Maybe. There's a couple things with that. One is that, yes, they should be telling us that, you need to be getting 300,000 views on a video before this works. Maybe not even releasing it to people unless they're getting that kind of baseline, right? Why are they releasing it to people with 10 subscribers if it's not going to work with somebody?
Right.
But I think they're afraid of people getting mad about the big creators having, kind of a leg up that the other ones don't. The other thing is, it could be a sample size problem, but it could also be a problem with the way they're running this. Now, obviously, I feel like it's obvious, I don't know, that the best way to test this would be to have it be completely random with who sees the thumbnails. I'm questioning if they have the capacity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does seem like, 5, 10, 20,000 impressions or more on some of the channels we've been testing it on should be enough to at least get a more even spread than 28% and 40%. Or more similar spread. So I wonder if for some reason they don't have the technology to be able to do that. And so they're like testing thumbnail 1 with your first, batch of viewers who are your loyal audience, waiting for your video to come out on your scheduled Monday morning or whatever. I don't know, because it's just too wild that this is happening. So it almost seems like there's more of a problem than just sample size.
Yeah, it is. It's tough. Here's another screenshot that you guys can see. This was again another control test. As you can see, we have a 29.9%, a 39.6, and a 30.5. So again, just another example of we should be seeing a like 33, 33, 33 split. But instead we're seeing a split that is pretty significantly off from that. Very, very interesting. And again, like these were tests that we've been running over and over and over with nearly all of our videos. Okay, someone here says, let's see. So going with the winner, does average view duration go up in the following weeks? Not that we've noticed significantly. Again, YouTube, I just responded, I think it was maybe to a comment this morning. Maybe it was in our P24 community. Someone said, it seems like this tool, the way that they're measuring it with watch time share percentage, it is very advantageous for YouTube because they want people to watch longer, right? More watch time means more advertising, longer time on platform, which is good for the creator, but this isn't directly measuring the thumbnail performance. It's thumbnail performance plus how well does it do with how well does the video do with the audience.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's not perfect yet. I did see some documentation. I think it was maybe Renee Ritchie said that they are working on hopefully adding some additional analytics or features to the tool. Again, we'll see how long that takes, but I would like to see some like click-through rate, that type of thing. That's a whole other discussion.
Right.
This is supposed to be a pure thumbnail tester, but we're not really seeing that.
Yeah, and maybe which one is getting shown, if they're not able to show them all simultaneously, which one is getting shown at which time.
Right.
A homesteading hustle said it's each thumbnail presented to different audiences. That explains a lot. Also, we're not sure. I suspect they might be. It's not the best way to do it, but maybe that's why we've been waiting 12 years for it, because maybe they haven't found another way.
Yeah, I have a really big problem with that, the way that they're using that terminology, because, like, for example, last year at Vid Summit, Renee Ritchie was there. He gave a presentation. He talked about that this would be going out. He said early 2024. Obviously, it was a little bit late, but they talked about showing it to various audiences. The problem with that, again, is that when you put out this control thumbnail test, right, we should be seeing a split, like 33, 33, 33. So the audiences that the thumbnails are being shown to, ideally they need to be as equal as possible. I think I agree with Julia, though. For you to be able to determine this audience is equal to this audience is equal to that audience, to show 3 different thumbnails, I just don't think that they can do that. Or I don't know if they can do it fine-tuned enough that they can get a 33, 33, 33 split. And I think we're seeing that. And that's on a channel our size, getting, a couple thousand views per video. Now think about creators who are maybe getting a few hundred views per video. A lot of very small creators who have been anxiously awaiting this tool. Well, if it's not working for a channel our size, or there's still a pretty large variance on a channel our size, or on a channel with 2 million subs getting 100,000 views per video, what does that mean for small creators? And I think that's my big problem here. It's like, okay, maybe for really big channels it works, great. Why did they release it and promise it to everybody if it's not going to help? Like, I don't know, I just have a big problem with that, and I think that creators would probably be better off just still creating 3 thumbnails, going through the work to create 3 thumbnails, but then probably just trying to run the test themselves. And to be completely fair, we're continuing to test this. The story is not over here. We hope that this tool will start working better. And we're hoping that over the next few weeks we can run some more tests. Like I said, we're working with other creators. Maybe we're going to find out that it is running a little bit better. We have gotten some test results back so far, and it does seem to preliminarily be a little bit closer. The spread's a little bit better, but not by much.
Yeah, so okay. I hope this is clear. I'm a little bit afraid that it won't be clear because sometimes we've shared like statistical things in other videos, and I don't know, maybe it's too boring. People didn't stick around. The reason I question whether this is clear is because we gave some feedback to YouTube themselves on this because they were waiting and testing it. They wanted feedback. So I said, hey, here's what we're seeing. It doesn't seem to work. And I showed screenshots of this exact thing, like explained it in quite a bit of detail. And they said, oh, yeah, well, you have to use your own judgment too. And we just have to get it out. Like, it didn't even sound like. They said they'd pass the feedback along and, eventually make changes. But they sounded like what they were saying is, we're going to just release it because we've been waiting so long. They're saying, we just got to get it out, it's been so long, and then maybe we'll make changes from there. So, like, we'll make changes later after it's released. This isn't a matter of, at least from what we've gathered, and I'll explain why in a second. This isn't a matter of, oh, it helps a little bit, but you also need to use your own judgment. At this point, with how drastic these results are with the control tests, it is absolutely meaningless from a data perspective, okay? Because I put all of these tests into a spreadsheet, all the control tests and all the non-control tests. And over these 6 months that we've been testing, the control tests, I think, just so happened to have a wider spread than the non-control tests. So the control tests were showing a bigger difference between the highest and the lowest thumbnails than the non-control tests, which means it is useless. Like, it really does, unless they're improving it and we're still testing it, we're still going to find out. But with those results, I mean, you could say our sample size is still not big enough. Whatever, but like, how long do you want to spend your time making multiple thumbnails and trusting what seems to be a broken tool?
Yeah.
I just hope that's like really sinking in.
Yeah. And so something else that's been really interesting. So over the last 6 months, multiple creators have received access to the beta version. We've seen other YouTube, we'll say, educators talk about the tool. Even Mr. Beast himself at Vid Summit last year talked about some of the A/B tests he was running with the new tool, where he would, change his smile from, he'd do like a big open mouth smile versus a closed mouth smile. Or we've seen creators change the color of their shirt, or put on a bow tie versus no bow tie. Those types of changes are so insignificant in these tests that it's nearly the same as running a control test. And so YouTube, they're not going to be able to tell the difference between some of those things. So some of these other creators, even Mr. Beast himself, they were running tests and then probably getting some wildly inaccurate results. They were probably getting some amount of result that was, Mr. Beast maybe was getting some accurate results just because he's getting so many views. But anybody else, if they're running like little changes on their thumbnails, like the color of a shirt or a smile versus no smile, like, okay, maybe smile versus no smile, but like open mouth smile versus closed mouth smile, these are the type of things that just, the tool can't handle that right now. It's just obvious that if the variance is wider with a control test than it is with 3 totally different thumbnails, yikes. It's just not a great place to be. Now, here's the silver lining. I do want to talk about this a little bit, because I know some of you might be going like, okay, well, if the tool sucks, like, what am I supposed to do? Create extra thumbnails. If you create 2 thumbnails instead of 1 thumbnail, if you ideate 2 thumbnails rather than ideating 1 thumbnail, you are likely to end up with a better result. And I think that, to me, that's the key, especially for smaller creators. Like, I run a small channel. I know Julia does. Many of us do here. We have the thumbnail A/B tester on there. Right now, I'm just running control tests on that channel because I'm just curious to know what's going to be happening. It's a small channel that gets not that many views. But what I know that I can do is create multiple thumbnails. If I do that in my video creation process, I'm just more likely to create a better thumbnail. And it's not going to be totally proven statistically because maybe it's not worth running it on your channel, but just publishing the better thumbnail is going to help your channel improve. And to me, that's a big win. And I hope that that's what this pushes creators toward, is just doing a better job on the front end with the title and the thumbnail, really thinking it through. I know for so many years, like on YouTube, even us, we've fallen into the trap of just very last minute, let's just throw a thumbnail on there, get a title out, and we'll just see how it does. But I do think when we spend a little bit more time ideating the thumbnail, maybe tweaking it a little bit, doing little revisions, I think we end up with a better result.
Yeah.
And so, and that's without the tool. That's without using the tool.
Right. Using your own judgment.
Yes.
Or getting feedback from each other.
Yep.
And that's another interesting thing is that, at the office here, sometimes we'll have thumbnails. We'll say, okay, which one's better? And we have a sample size of 8 to 10 people most days. And it's still usually people agree quite a bit. And I don't think it's really the group think or people just, trying to agree with each other. Because sometimes we'll ask them individually. And usually we get a very similar results on which thumbnail is the best.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that was our gut feeling anyways. I think you can really trust yourself between thumbnails to usually identify which one is the best. Not always, but usually. Yeah, and I just don't want people to waste their time. And I think that's what I'm so afraid of, is just that I can only imagine, it's already begun a little bit, but that there's going to be so many videos on YouTube about, discovering that red works better than blue, or dark works better than light, or words work better than don't, or this subtle change. And we don't know that at this point. That is probably not accurate. And I'm afraid people will trust it so much. They'll trust that information, or they'll trust their own tests they've been running because maybe they haven't seen this video, or maybe they're just not really paying attention. I just hate to see everyone wasting their time over something that is kind of almost fake at this point. So I don't know. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll I think
help spread the word for us.
Honestly, and that's what's been really interesting to see for us is there's a lot of excitement coming around this tool. Obviously, it's been long awaited. Other YouTube educators are making videos about it, but we're not seeing this being talked about. And to us, it does feel like a really big problem, just because it's not going to be as helpful as people think it is. So if people start using it as a crutch, it's just going to lead them in the wrong direction. Tech Timmy says, "Hey guys, longtime P24 member. Is this just for new videos?" No, you should be able to go back and put thumbnail A/B tests on your old videos if that's something you'd like to do. If you have old videos that are still getting views, then sure, I would say you could do that. So anyway, that's kind of the discussion we're having here. I do think it is very possible that we make more videos about this in the future. We're going to be continuing to do lots of this study and research, diving into the numbers, because we want to know, is it getting better? Is the tool getting worse? At what point maybe we can figure out by working with enough creators that you need to have, 50,000 minimum views on a video. I hope that's not the answer, but we'll just have to see. It's just hard to know at this point. But yeah, that's kind of it. Anything else from you, Julia? That you had?
I just would love to hear if there's anything else you guys want to know or want to hear about. Maybe even in the video that we have coming up, because we haven't actually filmed it yet. We're ready to film pretty much. But the video we have coming out later this week, or maybe early next week, about, we're going to compile all of our data. Is there anything you want to know? Is there anything we can answer for you now? What are your thoughts? Do you think we're off base here? I really find it important to spread the word on this.
Yeah.
Even if people still try to test it somewhat, we're all going to keep testing it. I'm not trying to be negative and say it's broken, give up, but just being aware of how reliable and trustworthy it is at this point. You get it. I've ranted enough. But, how do we drive this point home better for you guys? I'm imagining everyone that's stuck around here, gets it at this point. But, yeah, what would be interesting? Any other feedback? We'll give you just a couple more minutes to throw in any other questions.
Yeah, and if you think of anything after this stream is over, we have a video, the news video that Julie put out talking about the A/B tester. We are still watching those comments. You could do it there. We have a recent community post. If you have questions you want to throw in there for us to address in our upcoming videos about it, please throw them in there. If you test something, if any of you have channels and you're getting results, please, anywhere in our most recent videos, put those results in the comments. If you run these control tests where you're doing 3 of the exact same thumbnail and you get results, let us know in the comments. We would love to get those results, and we can utilize some of that data to see what's going on with different channels.
Yeah, for sure. One more thing I wanted to mention too. So YouTube says when they release this, they release a little video, and in the help page, they now say to, when you're running the test, that you should be testing thumbnails with drastically different elements. And they give some examples of drastically different. They're basically saying, don't do what we're doing. Which I understand. Even if this worked really well, I kind of understand that, because you're going to get faster results, probably a wider spread, especially if you have a small channel, you're not getting a lot of impressions. Yeah. But I don't know. like we shouldn't have to be doing that. And if we can't test subtle differences or no differences, we can't trust it, right? So it would be different if they're saying, okay, well, if you upload all three of the same thumbnail, you always get about a 33% spread. So, that's why, and then the results are going to be inconclusive. So that's why you should upload drastically different changes. Sure. But if we're not even getting a similar spread when they are similar, then we can't trust the different ones. So I just want people to be like, well, YouTube told you to make drastically different big changes. Well, we shouldn't have to. We should be able to test that this works. I'm not asking for a conclusive result if we have subtle or no changes. I'm happy that they have that inconclusive label. I wish we'd be getting it more because it should always be showing up if the thumbnail is exactly the same. Okay, we're getting a few more questions. So,
Furry Hippo Finance says, I've run 5 tests, all with 3 thumbnails coming back around 32 to 34% spread, or, each. I'd be really curious if on your channel, if you ran some control tests. And maybe you can clarify if those were control tests that you ran. It doesn't sound like it. But if you run some control tests, it'd be interesting to see if the spread was wider or if it's going to be smaller than the 3 totally different thumbnails. So if you do run those tests, let us know. We'd be very curious.
Yeah. So let's see. Christy says, are they still working to update the tester, or what is out is what will be for now? It's a little weird because it looks like on one page where it used to say beta, it doesn't say beta anymore, but it's still showing a little beta label on another page. Hard to tell. I think I'm sure they're still gonna keep trying to make improvements, I would think. But whether it's like officially in beta or not, or if they're even gonna rush to make improvements, they might just let it sit for a while and see what happens. I don't know. So they haven't been super clear about that, but from everything I've seen about like the help page and the video they released on Creator Insider about it coming out, they have not said it's still in beta. They're kind of just announcing it as features out. So officially, I'd say not in beta anymore.
Eerie Fairy Tale says, wouldn't they have to test all the different thumbnails with the same people? Good question. So to get a perfect result, yes, but obviously for the purpose of testing, that wouldn't work. I know there are channels that I watch that have been using the tester, and I just see one thumbnail. So even if I, get onto YouTube, I see their video, I see the thumbnail, I can leave YouTube completely and then get back on, 10 hours later, and their video, if it still happens to be there, it will be the same thumbnail. So YouTube has found a way to show it to, show a single account, a single thumbnail. But then if I go log into a different account and I kind of look in that area, I will possibly see a different thumbnail. So I think, yes, I get where you're coming from. It would seem that YouTube would really need to show all the thumbnails to the same people, but for testing purposes, obviously that wouldn't work. So they're probably trying to have to identify as similar audiences as possible, but without large volume, that's a very difficult thing to do. So
yeah,
I think that's why we're finding such wide variance here, is because they're just not doing that very well.
The Open Door moderator says, I might try this control test soon if I have a feature, haven't checked yet. Yeah, you might not. Keep checking every day if you do. When you have it, and if you try this test, we would love to see your results.
Yeah.
If you want to, if you're comfortable screenshotting it like we showed you here, and sending, or you could just say, the control test and say what the percentages were. The screenshot's a little nice. It shows how long the test has been running, and if there was that conclusive label, the winner, the preferred, or an inconclusive. But if you want to email it to Channel Makers, our email's on our About page, or post it in a video or whatever, or tell us you have it, and we would love to see, even if people are running non-control tests, because we're just running control tests. It's still kind of hard to find the margin of error. It's nice to have something to compare it to. So, as much as you guys want to share with us, we would love to have more data. The more channels that help collect this information, the more accurate we can be. So that would be amazing.
Mr. Ethos says, I missed the beginning of the stream. What results have you gotten? Generally the same between thumbnails or big differences? So we spent probably 10 or 20 minutes going through Mr. Ethos. We found some very interesting results. We're going to leave this stream up at least for a little bit so you can go back through and watch. It's complicated enough that I can't even really summarize it in a really brief answer, but go back and watch. We shared some screenshots of the different tests that we ran, and you're probably going to be a little surprised. So I would say it's definitely worth your time to go back and watch, even if it's on double speed or whatever. You're going to get some very interesting information there. So
yeah. People are asking about third-party tools. At this point, who knows? They might be better. There's a couple that we actually do want to test. We haven't tested them yet. but we probably will in the future and try to let you guys know. You can play with it. You can see. You could run some control tests on those and see what you get. I think the control test is a pretty good way to see how much you can trust something. You know, if you run 5 control tests and they're all pretty similar to 33, or 34, 36, 32, whatever, you can probably trust it. Especially if then, you know, you do non-controls and there's a wide spread. But we'll try to test it for you too. They might not be any better. You know, if YouTube can't get this software to work with, I mean, they probably had software engineers on this for years, like 12 years ago. They said it was coming out. So
yeah,
I don't know if any testers are great at this point, but you can try them. We're gonna try them. Someone says length of the testing is crazy different. Yeah. Yeah, you don't know how long it's gonna run. It's just saying it could run for 14 days. You don't know for sure. It depends on the impressions and how different the thumbnail results are and things like that. Another thing we saw that was interesting is one time we ran one and the results were quite different. It was like around like 28 for the lowest and 40 for the highest, I think. But it said inconclusive, which was interesting. So maybe that one had fewer impressions. I'm not sure why they decided it was inconclusive. Either way, not super trustworthy, but I like that they would at least say that. You know, to me that's a solution. If they were crystal clear about like winner label means you can trust it, inconclusive means you can't, no matter how big the spread appears, that'd be great. But that's not really what we're dealing with.
Lazarus 007 says your videos have been super informative, much appreciated. Thank you. I'm glad you've been enjoying them. And then also, I just joined the live. Can you provide a sentence or two answer about what the A/B tester is? Yes. So basically, YouTube's come out with this tool where you can upload now 3 thumbnails to a single video, and they're going to test to see which one performs the best. Basically, what we've concluded is at this point, their A/B tester cannot be trusted because of some of the tests that we've run. I would definitely go back and watch the rest of this stream so that you can understand why we've come to that conclusion, but that's sort of what we've concluded at this point. The tester is still being rolled out to all YouTube accounts. Not everyone has it yet. So anyway, go back and watch the stream. We're going to leave it up for at least a little bit, but we're not going to promise we're going to leave it up forever. So watch it closer or sooner than later.
Yeah, at least an hour so that you have time to watch the whole 50 minutes of it.
Yeah.
If you're just coming in at the end. We also have another video on Channel Makers right now, our newest video about the A/B tester, where I kind of cover all, not our results from the beta test, but cover all the details of what it is, what YouTube's saying about it, how to use it, when you might get it, things like that. We've said it before, but if you're not sure if you have it, check on desktop. Channels made for kids or with adult content, they say will not get it at all right now. Check every day, because even if you didn't have it yesterday, it's rolling out really quickly now. You might have it tomorrow. And use your own judgment.
The open door moderator says, wait, YouTube actually announced plans for this 12 years ago? No comment. Yes, that's like the comment of the day.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Comment is pinned. That's hilarious. Yeah, basically.
And advanced settings.
Basically, that is the story, and it's funny because I think you included that in your video that you put out on Friday.
Yeah.
And you ran into that on an old Reddit thread, and the person who actually went into the meeting with YouTube executives 12 years ago was talking about this, and they actually commented on that video. So go check that out.
It's
kind of a cool full circle loop there. So.
Yeah. Which. No hate. They got it out. They're trying.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, it is in our best interest for YouTube to succeed here.
Yeah.
We want the tool to work. We want them to do well. We appreciate the effort that they're putting in. We just want them to be transparent. We just want it to work for creators so that you guys can actually have the best chance of success. Yeah. That's what we care about. It's not that we're like, oh, gotcha, YouTube, you failed. We really do want this to work. I do think that it is telling, and AI Universe says 12 years tells me that this is not a feature they particularly care about. I think that's possible. I think it's also just speaks to how difficult it is to get accurate results. I think it's so complicated for them to run a test like this that's probably part of the reason. Obviously, in those 12 years, it's probably been prioritized at times, then deprioritized. But overall, I do think that the fact that they're putting it out now and that there's been such a struggle just speaks to how difficult it is to get accurate results.
Yeah, I think it's probably really hard. And I think they're excited about this feature. They release new features all the time, but they know how much people have been asking for this. They've been really excited about this one. They hyped it up so much at VidSummit. Like, they know how great this is. I think they are putting a lot of effort into it. And you can leave feedback. So if you have this, there is an option I think where you see your results, there's like a little exclamation point,
Mm-hmm.
talk bubble thing where you can click and give feedback. And give this feedback, you know? If you're on this and you see similar results, tell them, I did a control test with all the same thumbnails. And so I'm questioning the integrity of the tool. Now, I don't think you'll hear back from them. Maybe you will. Maybe they'll say, oh, well, that's why I suggest you test big differences. Whatever. If they say that, whatever. But no, that you shouldn't have to. You should be able to have confidence that the tool works. Yeah, but give them feedback. They'd probably like to know.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, awesome,
That's
guys.
it.
Thank you so much for joining our live this morning. If you have any other questions, again, you can put them in the chat here in the next 2 seconds in our other videos or on our community. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining. Hopefully this has been interesting to you. It's definitely been quite a journey for us, a journey that will continue so that we can find out what's working best. So thanks again. We will see you guys in the next one.
Thank you.